talk about what's on our shopping list, the tools you'll need to get the job done in training. Today we're going to cover treats, walking gear, human gear and bait bags, work-to-eat toys, chews, optional items, and regular toys. Investing in the right tools will help you get the job done most efficiently and without a lot of headaches. Today we're going to talk about the tools that have been well vetted on literally thousands of dogs and work great for most dogs. Up first is treats. The most important investment you can make in your training program is in the treats that you use for training. It's tempting to just grab any old bag of treats and expect or even demand that our dogs will work for them. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. Treats serve as the economy between us and our dogs, so getting their input is important too. You can think of treats on a value scale. If you don't care that much about a behavior or a delayed response is fine, go with a $1 bill. If this is a behavior you want to be really reliable, super fast in response, say like an emergency recall, you're going to go way up the pay scale to the $100 range. Now let's face it, most of the time we want really good performance from our dogs, but most people don't want to be feeding a super rich, non-stop diet of high protein to their dogs because it can cause problems in their intestinal tract. You may opt to pay accordingly for difficult behaviors, for instance, if it's a cheap behavior in a low distraction environment, using kibble, and if it's an expensive behavior in a high distraction environment, using the best of the best. Because a lot of the training that we do falls in between, let me introduce you to the trail mix option. Nobody eats trail mix for the peanuts. We'll eat it for the M&Ms, the dried fruit. Some of us like pineapple chunks over raisins, and some of us like dried coconut over dried apricots. So there's always variation, and this will be the same for your dogs. You need to know what your dog likes and build a trail mix around that. So what goes into your trail mix? Have some peanuts in there. That's totally fine. That would be the stuff like kibble, milk bones, biscuity type treats. Because you see, when they're stored with amazingly stinky stuff like cheese, hot dogs, freeze-dried salmon, dehydrated beef, those $1 bills will start to smell a bit like the $100 bills, thus bringing their value up to the $25 to $50 range. Then you've got them. Most trail mix isn't made up of M&Ms or sliced up hot dogs if you're a dog, but there's enough of them in there, and you get enough of them that you or your dog will eat the other stuff too. So I'll tell you how I create an everyday trail mix. But first, I want to assure you that there are treats for every budget when working with dogs. They actually aren't super picky. We run into problems when we hold on to inaccurate notions that get in our way to success. Things like, I don't want them to eat human food. Surprise, the same ingredients in your food are in theirs. Let it go. Food is food to your dog, regardless of packaging. It's all about how it's delivered. Just avoid contexts where it might cause confusion if you're concerned, like feeding them from your plate at the table. My everyday base consists of 2 types of really stinky treats, and you're going to look at the price tag and think this is a lot for these treats. They will actually last you the entire 6-week series because there's a lot in every bag. I use these treats because my job depends on being able to demo to a class full of dogs and people, which is a very high distraction, with a dog that I've never worked with before. These treats work pretty consistently. Real meat is a dog food. It's formulated to meet the same guidelines as your everyday meals, but it's a jerky consistency, easy for breaking into small pieces and healthy. Plus, dogs love it. Lox Crunch is my other go-to. Lox Crunch is just straight up salmon. It's freeze-dried, so it breaks easily, and it's also a healthy treat. Dogs also go crazy for this one. Now, those are my base, but I'll also add variety into these. Kibble, other varieties of treats, cheese, leftover lunch meat. I'll save my barbecue leftovers. I'll get discount cuts and cook them up in the crock pot. Sometimes I'll use eggs. A really easy trick with eggs is to just scramble them and overcook them and then cut them into small bits with a pizza cutter. Hot dogs are also really popular, and so on. If you've got a dog with strict dietary needs, typically what I'll do in those cases is look at the dog's bag of food and look at the protein, and then I'll just use a real version of the protein. So if it's a chicken meal base, then I might just get some chicken and boil it up and use that in its place. Now, if you don't want to mess with cooking all this stuff up, I totally understand. We list a lot of these treats on our website, and the link is in the video description. But you guys, this truly is the most important piece of the puzzle in training. Make sure that you guys invest in appropriate treats that your dog likes. Okay, now let's talk about walking gear. We strongly recommend a front and back clip harness. The balance harness is our very favorite. It's a dual connection harness, meaning that you can use it as a front clipping harness or a back clipping harness. And there are other brands listed in your shopping list as well. The benefit to a dual clip harness is that early in training, your dog's behavior is in its infancy, meaning it's not reliable outside in the real world yet. But sometimes you just want to get out for a walk, and it's likely that your dog will be pulling in those situations. To protect your training, we use contextual cues. The front clip we'll use for structure and the back clip we'll use for off-the-clock walks. This provides context for your dog about what the rules are at any given time. The super easy way to remember this is business in the front, party in the back. For leashes, we recommend you purchase 2 types, a standard 6-foot leash and then a long line. This is not required, but it is oh so helpful, and you'll find out why in future modules. For your 6-foot leash, comfort is really important. I really like the feel of just a standard nylon leash or maybe a soft leather leash. Those really big round leashes can actually be very uncomfortable in your hand, especially if you've got a dog that's pulling. But do try out some leashes and find what's going to be best for you. 6 foot is recommended because it's the perfect length for when we start teaching loose leash walking. 4-footers tend to be just a little bit too short. For long line walks, I really prefer biothane just because they're easy to clean. But long line walks are actually really peaceful and enjoyable. Take a look at this video. This was my heart dog Marshall, and these were the walks that we'd take together. Just lovely. Quickly, let's cover human gear and bait bags. The biggest benefit to bait bags are convenience in protecting your clothing. Treats are super stinky, and if you just throw them into your pocket, guess what? Even when they're gone, your pocket's still going to smell, and if you've got a dog with a strong sniffer, you're going to have them chewing out the pockets in your laundry basket. Now, this is a really nice bait bag. It's got magnetic clasps, which means that when you bend over, you're not going to spill all your treats. But really, it doesn't need to be super fancy. It just needs to be functional. I've literally had clients use fanny packs, which are apparently coming back in style. And I've even had people use a Crown Royal bag on a belt. So again, it doesn't have to be super fancy. You just want your treats readily available. Okay, work to eat toys. Let's just say if you're feeding your dog out of a food bowl, you're wasting a huge opportunity to provide mental enrichment. Mental enrichment is exercise for the brain, and if creating a nice household companion is what you're after, you want to get on board with this and fast. Now, I want to stress that exercise is important, but with some dogs, you run the risk of creating a fine-tuned athlete who needs more and more and more. We call these marathon dogs. Quite frankly, most of us don't have enough time to physically exercise our dogs to the point of mellow. But mental enrichment is easy for us to do. Take something the dog has to do anyway, eat, and turns it into an activity that serves to meet both of our needs. It's a great boredom buster and a great way to provide your dog with a legal activity to keep them occupied while you're busy so that they're not practicing illegal things. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to sit on a conference call without a dog barking at you? Or watch your favorite movie without interruptions? These bad boys are your ticket. Stuffed toys are also a really valuable option, but I'm not going to lie. Some dogs are true quitters. You know the type. You give them a Kong, they lick the top part clean, and then they leave the rest. It's simply too hard for them at this stage. So if you've got a quitter on your hands, let me introduce you to the Topple. Topples are durable and you can stuff them and freeze them just like Kongs, but the wider opening means that your dog can get rewarded for working on it a little bit easier. This is a great option for puppies or for adult dogs who are just learning how to use work-to-eat toys. Like other stuffed toys, wet food, kibble, cottage cheese, green beans, all of that would be a great mix. Just mix it together and freeze it. Bam, you've got peace. Once you've got them addicted, you can start to make them harder. You can go back to using Kongs or really any other variety. There are just massive varieties in this stuff. There's stuff like slow feeder bowls to licky mats to stuffed toys and so on. You can even make your own using a muffin tin and tennis balls, putting the kibble underneath. Start playing around and see what you can come up with. Now let's cover chews. I'll keep this one short and sweet. Dogs love to chew, and they will, whether you provide them with items or not. So it's best to provide legal outlets. Doing so means that you're directing a necessary behavior appropriately. Chewing also helps dogs to calm themselves. The repetitive nature helps them to relax. Check your shopping list for all the different options that we recommend. But before we move on, let's just quickly talk about safety. When unsupervised, we recommend stuffed toys over chews, only because chews can become dangerously small and actually prove to be a choking hazard. So for crated dogs or unsupervised dogs, always opt for a Kong or a Topple instead. Optional items. If you're working with a brand new puppy or a dog that's just getting used to living in a house, crates, X-pens, and baby gates can be very helpful. These are management tools for you to use when the dogs are unsupervised or when you're working on potty training. They keep your dog safely confined when you're unable to supervise them directly. These are not a long-term solution for your dogs. Our job is to train them so that they can be a productive member of the household, but they absolutely will help you early in training. The last thing on our list today is toys. Toys are a favorite of every dog. Your dog's strength and habits will determine which toys are most appropriate for them. The thing about toys is that a lot of folks assume that toys are going to keep the dog busy on their own. I actually debated whether or not to put them on the list because the truth is most of you guys usually already have toys. But I want to do some myth busting. Toys are actually meant for us to use with our dogs together. Toys that we don't move around or squeak become boring to the point that eventually the only fun thing about them is de-stuffing them. So use toys appropriately. If you want them to be long-lasting, enjoy them with your dog. If you don't want them to de-stuff them, give them a chew instead as a boredom buster. A non-moving toy is a dead toy. It's a boring toy. So animate them when you want to use them with your dogs, but don't expect them to hold your dog's focus for hours on end. Now remember, this is an ideas list for you. If you bought everything on here, you would spend a small fortune. Most important right now are the treats that you'll be using and maybe some interactive toys and chews. Get other items as needed. For a link to our shopping list, head to the comments section of this video, or you can also head to our website, scroll to the bottom of any page to the sitemap, and you'll see a link there. Happy shopping!